Hi, welcome to the Sweet Slumber Podcast, the good, the bad, and the sleep deprived. I am your host, Meredith Bruff. I'm a wife, a mother of 5, a childcare expert, and a sleep coach. I'm here to teach you the most effective sleep advice for infants and young children. With my guidance, sleep will become something that you look forward to again, and you will feel rested. I believe that motherhood is the most important and demanding role that we have. But the challenges and accomplishments that go along with it go unnoticed frequently. We are going to talk openly about these things so that we can draw strength and compassion from each other. I will share my perspective as a seasoned mother and help you experience more fulfillment.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. I am excited to share an interview today with you. I'm going to be speaking with Peyton Berg. She is a functional medicine certified health coach and nutritionist with her background in pediatric nursing. She loves to work with moms to help them go from surviving to thriving in motherhood and ultimately leading to healthy mothers raising healthy kids in healthy homes. That sounds fabulous. Thanks for being here, Peyton.
Thank you. I know. And I always get so confused as to what to call myself because functional medicine certified health coach and nutrition is like so long, right? I appreciate
that.
No, I appreciate you dealing with the technicality and the detail of the super long name, but that's what my certificate says, so that's what I say.
That's perfect then.
Yeah.
So today, Peyton's going to share some of the health concerns parents have about their children and themselves. I'm going to be more specific, mothers, right?
Right. I work with mothers. I can work with whole families. I just normally work with moms specifically, and then they go on and to influence their family, right? Because our mothers, we kind of run the ship in that we do most of the cooking, we do most of the caring for the kids typically, or just that makes sense stereotypically. And so that's generally how it goes with my clients. And so it's just much easier to work with the mothers. And then that's how I'm able to influence whole families into being healthier together. So it's a pretty cool experience. That's
great. Well, and I imagine they relate to you, you relate to them. It's probably very cohesive, right?
Yes, exactly. Being a young mom as well as a mom of young kids. Yes, it generally works well when I can tell them, oh yeah, I just went through that yesterday with my 3-year-old or, whatever. They like that I'm not so far ahead of them or so distanced from them in life experiences that, I experience right alongside them. But as well as you need a lot of help along the journey. It's not just one practitioner or one particular person or one particular, like you said, season of life or age group or, whatever. You're going to need that healthy mix. So absolutely, 100% agree.
I love the idea of a team approach. I'm excited to see more and more clinics that approach things that way. Mm-hmm. Like we're at the infant stage there. But, I love it when people collaborate. It's just so valuable.
And so a little bit about kind of how I got started into health besides nursing school was that when my first son was born, I specifically remember sitting across from my husband in the kitchen in our little townhouse. And he told me, I am watching you waste away in front of me. And he was watching me waste away because I was so overcome by stress of what do I feed myself? What do I feed my kid? I'm going to ruin him from the start if I don't do this right. Okay, so we need to be Whole30. Okay, do we need to be vegan, paleo? What do we need to eat or not eat? What products should I use or not use on my baby, on myself? Like I was so overwhelmed and so stressed over every little thing that I was completely, not only is pregnancy a depleting process of like, it depletes the mothers of lots of minerals and nutrients, but then breastfeeding on top of that depletes you. And then stress. I don't think a lot of people realize like how much stress, emotional stress, physical stress, no matter what kind, the body interprets stress the same way. That is so depleting on top of that. And so, a lot of people don't know the term orthorexia, but that is a term to describe someone that is so overly concerned about health and health related things that they are actually becoming more unhealthy because they're so stressed over it. And that was where I was. And when he sat me down and was just like, I'm watching you waste away, I was like, I just started crying because I'm just like, I'm just trying to do the best that I can, but doing the best that I can, it like stressing over doing the best that you can is not good for anybody.
Yeah.
So that's
you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself to just get it right perfectly.
exactly
So unreal. And
it's so right. Absolutely. And so, I really had to wrestle through that and just realize that, on this earth, we are never going to attain perfect health. No one is. It's not possible. And so, and that may sound grim, but honestly, I find comfort in it that no matter what I do, it will never be perfect. So it's okay to just do the best that I can and that not turn out perfectly because it's not possible. So I actually found comfort in that and started to really get into a stride of, okay, like let's go back to basics. And this is when I started looking into education as far as the functional medicine and nutrition and all that stuff. So how we're into root cause, root solutions. And that's now what I do in my practice is, like, for example, a lot of people come to me with their kids struggling through eczema. It's a very common, does not mean it's normal, but a very common childhood issue in our world today. And so, a lot of practitioners, especially in functional medicine, holistic medicine world, will say, oh, well, we need to work on their liver because eczema, the root cause of eczema is, liver distress. And I like to go even further. So what controls the liver, right? Like what contributes to the liver doing its detoxification jobs? Well, your thyroid sends, hormonal messages to the liver to do its job. Oh, and the gut health, your microbes in your gut actually contribute to your liver health. So we need to look at that. But then what controls your microbes in your gut as well as your thyroid? Oh, your metabolism, and not just how well you burn fat, but your cellular metabolism and how your cells actually take in nutrients, utilize those nutrients and create energy and get rid of the waste, anyway, going down all the way to a cellular level. And that's been it's been fascinating to teach women about that, because my goal too is to teach these mothers to a point where they will not want or need a session with me ever again, because they get the tools to understand basic foundational principles and then go and interpret information themselves.
And that's what I was wondering when you were talking about. Actually, one of the things that frustrates me most is when I take my kids to the doctor and the doctor wants to treat something and they don't think about root causes. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's frustrating because something's going on underneath. And then it's hard to find the right person to go to. Like recently, I said I wanted to get my daughter tested for allergies because the dentist had done an x-ray and could tell her nasal passages were closed. And my doctor sent us to an ENT. And I got there and I was like, I thought we were doing allergy testing. And he's like, nope, they're concerned about airway. And I'm like, what?
And you're like, okay, I get it. Nasal passages are part of your airway, but I'd like to know why the nasal passages are closed. And I thought maybe we could look. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Go into how he wanted to treat that. So yes. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Well, especially too, lately, functional medicine has, I feel like, turned into pill for an ill, right? A lot of people in the holistic community describe conventional medicine as pill for an ill. You go in because you're suffering from this symptom, and they just give you two separate pills to just mask those symptoms, right? So I feel like functional medicine is turning into pill for an ill, but with supplements, because everyone wants to throw all of these supplements at all your problems. And not that supplements are bad, but something that I see is people utilizing supplements in place of basic nutrition. And then to, bring it back a little bit to mothers and kids' health, I see a lot of times mothers basically imprinting their own health struggles onto their children, right? And so then when I work with a mom, they go, okay, so should my kid be taking this? Should my kid be doing this? Because I'm starting to see they're starting to have this symptom pop up and it's just like me, and it's like, we're honestly putting our health struggles onto our children and trying to treat something that maybe isn't quite there yet, or maybe you're trying to, I understand you want to get ahead of things, but at the same time, we need to take a step back and realize our children are separate from us. And you had a very different upbringing than your child. Right now, you have more knowledge about health than your mother did, because, we talk through their health history, and you need to rest in that you are doing an amazing job, and not that your mother didn't do an amazing job, but you are doing the best that you can with what you have where you are right now. Yeah. And, just trying to rest. I think that's one of the first steps, honestly, in talking about kids' health, is take a step back and take a breath, and let's just calm down for a second.
I think we can blame Dr. Google for a lot of
Yes. Right. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the worst things.
I know. I just talked to someone about that. It's so funny. With your background in pediatric nursing, do you get asked a lot of questions about kids' health?
Way too much. I've actually had to practice boundaries lately, because Instagram is where I do like pretty much all of my marketing and education and things like that. And it's actually quite alarming and concerning how many people will either just be kind of flat out rude and try to use me as a Google search engine. I've literally had people message me, root cause for eczema.
Oh,
but like they don't say hi. They don't say, thank you so much for your page. I just was curious if you knew, no, literally root cause for eczema. And I'm just like,
terrible.
Go input in Google.
I am not Google.
Yes. So either that, or I will get a lot of moms who give me the opposite. They give me 3 full paragraph messages because they just want to give me their whole life story and their child's life story, and then say, okay, what can you do to help me? And I'm like, okay, well, number 1, hello. Number 2, this is Instagram, and I don't know anything about you besides the, book you just wrote for me. But this is not a clinical setting. And I'm actually shocked you shared all this private information about yourself in social media realm. But, so having boundaries for myself to make sure I'm working with, client practitioner relationship. But all that to say, to answer your question, I get probably on a daily basis asked whether it's about constipation, because that's a very common issue. I get asked a lot about jabs or shots, that kind of a thing, coming from the nursing world, even though in the emergency department, we didn't really administer those. But because I'm a nurse, they automatically think I'm supposed to know a lot of these things, which, fun fact, nursing school, you don't get taught about nutrition or shots more than you're lucky if you get an hour worth of education on those in your entire 4 years of nursing school. Yes. So so when your nurses go to you, by the way, at your pediatrician's office thinking, oh, you need to be doing this, for your kid should be eating X, Y, and Z, or yes, we absolutely administer all of these shots at once and no one's ever had a problem. It's just like, well, they probably have about as much education on that as you do, because it's just the way it is, unfortunately. But
no,
anyway,
I've been misinformed for sure.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And, but anyway, about how to choose the right provider, I get asked that often as well, and how to and how to speak to your child's pediatrician, because our society has also created this kind of God complex surrounding doctors and medical professionals, right?
Especially for young parents, I think they really, really just don't understand that they're human.
Right.
They only have their own experience to rely on.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure you deal a lot of that with, especially sleep issues, right? They get shaken off all the time, as far as, just give them some Benadryl or, melatonin, and it's just like, no,
shut the door and let them cry. They get that.
Yes.
Pretty much all parents are told that.
Exactly. And I'm sure it's so frustrating to you to be just like, no, there are reasons, there are deeper issues at play, but they don't know what, because the doctor said, or because my pediatrician said, then it must be true. And it's just like, they don't get education on children's sleep patterns or, root causes of why children might have issues sleeping, or the fact that babies are supposed to be wakeful, so you're not supposed to necessarily sleep 12 hours, within your first month of bringing your baby home kind of thing. Like that's not normal. So
I know there's so many bad things.
But yes. And so anyway, all of these things I definitely get asked on a daily basis about something related to children's health, but it's pretty interesting when you think through it. What I get asked about with kids' health, it all does come back to gut health. Whether it's eczema or constipation or picky eating. I don't know. I could think of probably 5 to 10 more things, but I do get asked about kids a lot.
Gas is a big one. I mean, that's step before constipation. A lot of kids just that nonstop. So
absolutely. And so then the next step that I normally get asked about when it comes to kids' health is, okay, well, what can we do about it? What testing can we do? And because that's always tough, right? Like no one wants their little child to get poked with a needle for blood work or whatever. So I've had to become creative in my practice on ways that we can really test instead of guess when it comes to the children's health, but in a non-invasive way, right? Because no one wants to do that. So anyway, long answer. There you go. Short answer.
That was
yes.
Great. No, that was actually, what you just said is really important, because a few years ago, my daughter was having all sorts of problems with her gut, with her stomach. And I think it was partly anxiety related, but they put her through all the testing. Is that a scope they put down your throat? She had to drink this nasty drink. And when we left the hospital, we found out she had GERD. And I was like, why in the world did we go through all this to be told she had heartburn and gastric, whatever you call it, reflux?
Oh my gosh.
Really frustrated. So, I mean, there are so many issues, and
absolutely
the problem, and you want to make sure you don't put your kid through anything like that for something simple. So I love your approach. It's wonderful.
Well, especially too, like I said, a lot of them are looking for symptoms, right? Because how are doctors trained? And this is just to be aware, just to throw this out there, this is not me knocking doctors, saying they're horrible people or we should never trust doctors. That is not my message at all. It's more of just being aware of where they're coming from, right? They are taught their ICD codes, their diagnosis codes, and each diagnosis has a list of symptoms. So they're supposed to match your symptoms as best as they can to a diagnosis. But a lot of times when you're looking to root solutions, there may not be a fancy name for what you're struggling with, but there could be a root cause and we could find that. Same thing with, children. So when you put your children through all of these conventional testing methods and, it's a lot of times they're trying to just find more symptoms instead of doing something like a stool test, a GI map, where all they have to do is poop, which kids hopefully do every day, right? Hopefully. And then you send it off and there's so much you can tell from that. And because our microbes run a lot of the show, whether they're making neurotransmitters that help us control our mood and our emotions, which is very difficult for children, right? And then the microbes also control how our bowel habits are each day. And anyway, so just something as simple as testing their stool can tell us, give us a wealth of information. And that's super easy. Instead of, I have a couple kids who, a couple of clients who are diagnosed with Crohn's, which is a very big autoimmune issue with the gut. And the mother, one client I'm thinking of in particular is a child, and the mother refused a scope because they wanted to take this child and do a scope of her bottom that, we think colonoscopies for 55, 60-year-olds, but not for a child. And she's like, no, I'm not going to, I think the trauma and stress of that on my child is going to be worse than whatever, this Crohn's could be. And I've been so impressed with the work and the progress that she's made, but I'm just wanting to go back to imagine if she had gone through the scope, they look at her lab work, and they see one thing and say, oh, look at all these symptoms. And it, points to this or that, but she seems okay per her lab work, but then you have this child bent over in stomach pain and not gaining weight, actually losing weight, and loose stools all the time and stuff like that. But her labs look fine. Well, then you deal with, are you using conventional lab ranges or optimal lab ranges? Because we could do a whole podcast episode on how lab ranges are developed. They're using sick people as their parameter settings versus healthy and well people. And so you're being compared to sick people across the country. So it's like, are you really, if you're in conventional range, are you really healthy? And is that really a good look at what could be going on? Right.
Wow.
Anyway,
no.
so much, but all that to go back to, it's good to get a couple different opinions and perspectives before moving forward with anything like testing with your child, even with yourself. But as far as kids' health and testing goes, definitely try to get a couple different perspectives before moving forward with something as drastic as, scoping or even blood work, because that can be traumatizing too for some kids. So
great advice.
Yeah.
Well, I am sure that kids' health is impacted by maternal health. And so do you want to talk about that? How are those two related?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we can go all the way back to preconception, right? So there's something called imprinting. I mentioned that word before, but imprinting it can be hormonal imprinting. It can be nutritional deficiency imprinting. Epigenetics is also a thing where we may have the genes for something. We may be genetically predisposed to breast cancer or diabetes or something like that because it runs in our family, but the genes are only the gun. The environment is what actually pulls the trigger. So this is important too for anyone considering getting pregnant. You need to really work on your own health as a mother as well as the father, so that your genes are as good as they're going to get, and you are in a very plentiful stage of plenty of minerals, plenty of nutrients, plenty of stores in your body ready to give baby all the nutrients baby needs to develop. And then during pregnancy, obviously I have very different views. I'm considered alternative to even alternative health, like when it comes to prenatals and a lot of different supplements. Again, that could be like 3 podcast episodes in one or another time. But anyway, and so just nourishing yourself through pregnancy, because that affects your baby's life. Fun fact. So my chiropractor is pediatric certified, and I promise this is related, but just to show you how much just even development in the womb affects the rest of the trajectory of your child's life outside the womb. The first subluxation, meaning the vertebrae on your spine being misaligned, the research has shown that the first subluxation can happen at 22 weeks, as early as 22 weeks gestation in the womb.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Imagine, I know. Imagine what else can, happen in the womb if you're not nourishing yourself properly, right? Or maintaining as best of health as you can. And then, so that starts your child off. A lot of people don't think about that. And then once your child is born, obviously there's so many things we can do or not do, right? With kids' health. And again, I'm about to say these things with doing the best that we can with what we have, right? So breastfeeding, is obviously one of the best choices we can make if that's a possibility for us. I get a lot of people asking what to feed my baby versus foods. So that's obviously a topic of discussion I do when it comes also like shots, like that kind of a thing. I feel like informed consent is something that's really lacking in our world now, which is really sad, really hard to see. But, we're just bombarded with so many decisions to make, even before the child is born, but let alone once the child is born. And going back to what I said before, I think one of the first steps in maternal and, pediatric health is taking a step back and making sure we are not putting all of our stress onto our children, because and I'm sure you know this, they are very sensitive to just environmental stress, but also our stress, right? Like we are definitely bioenergetic beings, and kids really pick up on that kind of stuff. I can tell you from experience, my 4.5-year-old is like, he knows when something is not right with me, like, and he'll go, "What's wrong, mommy?" And I'm like, "I thought I was hiding it so well." And they just know. And so I think that's really, really important to just reiterate and really make sure moms understand that just because you have a diagnosis or just because you have a list of symptoms to work through does not mean your child does. And, we need to really, I understand a lot of moms too, really want to put their kids before themselves when it comes to health, which I totally get. I understand. I've done that. I'll have
just a struggle, like trying to figure out how to even see your own needs. And then
right.
How do you still meet your kids' needs while you meet yours, right?
Exactly. But I feel I have to work with moms a lot of times through that struggle of, I know you want this testing for your child. I know you want this health coaching session to be about your child. But the thing is, you can't help your child until you are able to actually get up off the couch to watch your child and help your child, right? Like you can't, a lot of moms, if I had $1 for every time a mother described, I just am so tired that I feel like I'm constantly watching my children from the couch because I just don't have the energy to play with them. I don't have the energy to take them out and do something, all that stuff. It's just like, we can talk about your child and their health, but they're already going to be healthier if you're healthier and actually able to care for them well. So that's normally where I start, honestly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, do you have a minute to tell us about some of the common questions you get for maternal health?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the number one, if I had to pick like the number one thing I get asked about, it's probably what should I eat and what should my kids eat, because they just want to know what to eat for themselves, but also what to be cooking for their families, right? So I, like I said, have a very different perspective because in the alternative community, and most of my clients come to me, that we all need to be dairy-free, gluten-free, eating salads all the time, lean meats, all of those things, right? And if you can see up here, I know people listening won't be able to see, but How to Heal Your Metabolism by Kate Deering is going to be one of the best books for everyone to have on their shelf.
One more time.
Yeah, How to Heal Your Metabolism by Kate Deering. It's going to be one of the best life-changing, mind-blowing books for people. That's probably all I'll say about that, because I can dive into a lot of different views on food and nutrition. But one thing that I really like to focus on with moms is mineral replenishment. And I feel like that's one of the best things mothers can do, because like I mentioned before, the microbes, the bacteria, the viruses, that make up our gut microbiome, they do run a lot of the show. That's true. But what helps control and regulate our microbes and the rest of our body, and how those microbes relate to the rest of our body? Well, hormones, yes, but what runs hormones? Enzymes. What runs enzymes? Minerals. So that's my little backtracking, that I seem to like to do a lot, all the way back to why I think mineral replenishment is such a great root solution for a lot of symptoms. And so if mothers could just get some more minerals in, that would be, make a world of difference for their health. And so the next question usually is, okay, well, how do I get minerals in? What minerals am I looking for? So something I run in my practice is hair tissue mineral analysis, or HTMA. And that looks at your mineral status. And from there, we can see thyroid function, adrenal function, vitality predictions, as far as like, are you thriving in motherhood? Or are you just running on survival mode pretty much every day? And mineral stores, like I said. So the 4 macro minerals are potassium, sodium, and then calcium and magnesium. And so these are the things, specifically sodium and potassium, I love mothers to try to focus on first. And that's because they are so foundational. So we talked earlier about getting down to even cellular metabolism, cellular respiration, right? Well, each cell has something called a sodium and potassium pump that allows things to go in and out of the cell. So if you don't even have enough sodium and potassium in your body to actually allow things in and out of your cells, well, then no matter what fancy supplements, no matter what fancy foods you throw into your body, it's not going to work on a cellular level until you at least have sodium and potassium on board. So some great options for potassium. That one's harder to get than sodium because you can just salt your food, throw a pinch of salt in your water, or whatever, and people usually don't have issues getting sodium in, but potassium is harder. And coconut water is a great option. Aloe vera juice, just be warned, don't be guzzling that because you will have loser stools with that. I always like to throw that caveat. Eating just mineral rich fruits, like raw fruits. And I like to also, I'm a big proponent of nose to tail eating, which I know really grosses people out, but but grass-fed meats are going to be such a great nutrient dense food for people. A lot of people like myself who just can't even handle liver do liver capsules. They have like Ancestral or Perfect Supplements has liver capsules. That's nature's multivitamin. I'm a huge proponent of whole food supplements. I actually don't recommend multivitamins even for kids ever. If you can figure out how to get liver in them, that's going to be nature's multivitamin and a great mineral replenisher. Trying to avoid just drinking plain water, honestly. Even if you throw a pinch of salt in there, throw some fruit in there, or having juices as well. Just like I said, really trying to replenish those minerals, because pregnancy, you get depleted of about 10% of your mineral stores at a minimum. And then breastfeeding is even more on top of that. So imagine doing that multiple times in a few years, right? And not focusing on actually replenishing your minerals. So I think that's one of the biggest tips that I can give moms. And wow. I could keep going, but I feel like that's even a lot to unpack for most people.
That's great. I mean, that's wonderful. If we can get tips on where to start, that's what we need, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And normally it spirals or snowballs into, okay, now what do I eat? Like, how do I eat and stuff like that. But like I said, that normally I have like 60-minute sessions just to discuss that with people, but how to heal your metabolism is going to have a lot of those great basic principles that I coach through. So that'll be easier for people to just snag the book than sit here and listen to me go on and on.
Well, and I know that I looked at your website, you have free resources for people, you have services, and I saw something about, start here if you want to do a bigger program. Can you tell us a little bit more about how my listeners could work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of my Instagram profile is mostly educational posts and Instagram like story highlights and stuff like that. So I do have like an unlearning to unlearn and relearn some basic principles of nutrition and supplements, as well as I do have two free guides, one of 5 ways to start your health journey and cleaner living. And then one about 5 questions to ask yourself before vaccinating. So those are just 2 free guide options. I do send out a monthly newsletter as well. Hopefully people find that educational. And then I'm actually just about to release a course specifically for moms who are so overwhelmed with all the health information and wondering like, what the heck do I even do? Where do I start? Well, I am creating a course for you. So it will walk you through these basic foundational principles in a way that is, Lord willing, not overwhelming, give you places to start, right? Because we can read information all day long. But how do we, one, know that it's true or know that it's going to be good for us? So I'm going to teach how to do that. And then number 2, how to implement it, right? Like that's the most important step. And most moms just get stuck at, the overwhelming information part. So this course will help them learn how to actually implement great foundational nutrition and health basic principles and build upon that. So that's coming soon. I have wait lists and things like that. But As far as working one-on-one with me, I work with, like I said, mothers and children. And normally you just schedule a free consult to see if we actually can even work together well. Can I help you with your issue or your kids' issues? Do we need to do any testing like HTMA or a GI map on your kid, on yourself? And then if we work together well, if we jive, then we move to actually working together as a client and a practitioner. And like I said, we can do all the fun testing or not, whatever floats your boat. But I love, like I said, starting to work with the mothers first, and then we move into working with your family. But if anyone's interested, they can either find me on Instagram and message me, or support@lovinghealthfm.com is the easiest way to try to schedule a session. So yeah, I believe that's all the ways. Carrier pigeon smoke signals are also welcome.
Funny. I'm like, what?
I like to just make sure you're listening, you know.
You lost me there. I was like, will you tell my listeners again what your website is and your Instagram account?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's probably a good tip.
Okay.
Yeah. www.lovinghealthfm.com. The FM's for functional medicine, if that helps people remember. And then my Instagram handle is @pay_lovinghealth_LLC.
And I'm going to just also clarify PEY.
PEY, yes. Yes. Good clarification.
We don't want it to be PAY. That won't help them, right?
No, that will not. That's a good clarification. Yes.
That's all right. Well, thank you so much. I love speaking with you. I think that we could do this for hours. So we'll
yes.
off here with listeners, moms who are just like, wow, their mind's already exploding and excited to implement these things that you shared. I love learning, especially about health. I feel like it's so inspiring and motivating, and getting little tips like you gave is just the perfect way to get going on this journey. So thanks for sharing those. I hope my listeners are inspired to think more about their own health and ready to take action in some small way. And I hope you visit Peyton's website at lovinghealthfm.com, look through her resources, and keep going. Remember, I'm here to improve your sleep. You can find my free resources and information about working with me at sweetslumbertime.com. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope that it was not overwhelming and gave you a first 1 or 2 action steps in working on your own health as well as your family's.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you definitely helped them with that. No worries. Well, everyone, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Sweet Slumber Podcast, the good, the bad, and the sleep deprived. If you enjoyed the show today, please take a moment to write a review, leave a rating, and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. This will also help more mothers find my show. Thanks for listening.